Hey everyone, happy Friday, and we are back. It's under 2 weeks to IT Expo in Fort Lauderdale. The countdown is on, and we are so excited to bring an update into the agenda and the event. Rich and John, how are you guys?
Fantastic. How are you, Evan?
Doing great. Good to see
Yeah.
John Arnold here. Let's start, as always, with introductions for those two people who haven't heard about IT Expo in the world. Let's give them a snapshot of the big event and a little bit about your background as always, Rich.
Fantastic. Thanks, Evan. So here goes. My name's Rich Pirani. I've been in the tech space, covering it via a media company for many decades. And approximately 25 years ago, we launched a show called IT Expo, which is the premier place on the planet, we think, for bringing buyers and sellers together in the B2B space. So, business communications, business technology, AI, cybersecurity, IoT, the future of work, the future of the customer experience, basically, where technology intersects your organization. You come to this show at the beginning of the year and you speak with like minded attendees. You learn, you speak with vendors who've got the latest solutions, and hopefully you deploy them. You make your company more efficient, more profitable, more competitive. And you do this in a few focused days in South Florida where the weather is generally good. And we've got networking events. And then you go home refreshed and also hopefully excited about the future of technology. God knows I'm excited about it.
Fantastic. Well, I can't wait to see you there. There's so much to unpack and explore, and we're going to peel back the onion. But first, John Arnold of John Arnold and Associates. Who are these associates? I don't know, but John has been at this for decades, exploring the future of work, remote work, hybrid work, and all of those topics. John, how are you?
Hey, great. Good to be back as always, guys. And Evan, yes, well, we've all been doing this a long time. And Rich, I don't know how you can be anything but excited for Expo and future of work because it never stands still. And I think it's worth noting, guys, that IT Expo has been running for so long, it's hard to remember what the world was like in the early days when it was just enough to talk about telephony and phone systems and all of the basic stuff that we don't even think about anymore. And I think, folks, if you have not been to IT Expo, it's a great bellwether for how technology has been evolving and what
I can
we're
just interject
hoping.
in there, John. The
Yeah,
show started so long ago that the phone we used was a Nokia phone. Most likely it was a Nokia or a Motorola StarTAC. That's how long ago. Like the BlackBerry hadn't even taken off, and before the iPhone was in place. Like that's how far it goes back, right? So it's been evolving for a long time. So yeah, please continue.
yeah, but that's part of the. I wouldn't say it's part of the charm, but I think, guys, we've all been in this space for so long. We've seen so many shows come and go, right? And for what better or worse, this show persists, and I think it's a real testament to you guys staying on the pulse because it just, as I said, it doesn't stand still. And I think our future work effort as part of IT Expo is one small slice of that, and how it helps keep the whole program relevant, right, Rich, for not just the exhibitors, but for the communities. And there are many communities that gather. And I think that's one of the hidden strengths of this event is that, you pull people from our world, from IoT, from MSP, all these different adjacencies that all have communications as kind of the common thread. And I can't think of a better place to get all of that under one roof.
Indeed,
Yeah,
and it's not just one or two topics or verticals or domains that we serve. It's so many in parallel, including cybersecurity and wireless and networking and cloud and future of work, which you're leading, John. Talk about the agenda for the co-resident Future of Work Expo within IT Expo. And I'm just scrolling here. You have an amazing lineup of speakers, innovators, analysts, and others. What's new this year?
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you've got the program up. It's a good time to be doing this, guys, because our speaking roster, as you'll see scrolling through, is mostly full. Not all the names are up there yet, but a good chunk of them are. And, I think we said this last year when we did our preview talk, guys, future work, we've been using this term for so long. The future is kind of already here, but there's more future to come, and that's why we keep doing it. So as you're going through this, Evan, yeah, the themes here is really to showcase that the concept for future work is much more than just what do we do showing up in the office. There are so many tangents here, right? With not just the technologies, which is still a core focus, and telephony is still part of that discussion where we look at things like UCAS, remote teams, the role of video now, and here you're just pointing to role of IT. This is a big one. When you think about how the concept of work as we've known it for so long has been evolving, it impacts every part of the organization. So if you're an IT guy, you've got a lot of things that are new on your plate that weren't there 2 or 3 years ago. With first we had the pendulum swing of remote work. Now it's swinging back to in office. So hybrid work is that ongoing struggle to get it right on both ends. And I'm going to certainly be my opening keynote, I'm going to be talking about some industry research trends that show what's actually happening with this kind of fundamental shift of how do we keep everybody happy? Because you need those workers in both places now, and that's hard to do. Stick on that spot where you are right now there, Evan. I do want to point out that Jeff Pulver is on the program. And this turned out to be the only session I could find a spot for him, Rich. But I'm very glad to have him with us. He's going to kind of be my special guest on this opening keynote. So it'll be very cool to get his perspectives on how he sees these trends as a guy who's been in this game as long as any of us have. So that's kind of the opening kind of segment for the event, Evan. And then, as you see, Rich, we're going to be going through all these other areas. I mentioned IT, the role of UCAS, and a lot around employee engagement. What kind of skill sets do workers have to have in this new world? And we haven't even yet talked about AI, right? And I hate to say it, but AI is the driver for everything now, especially future of work. So that's going to be an ongoing theme through all these different topics. How is AI changing the whole concept again of work? Because now we have, the hot term in 2025, guys, is agentic AI or AI agent, right? Where now these bots, these digital assistants, whatever you want to call them, are getting good enough that they can take tasks off your plate and handle them end to end without human intervention. This is brand new. We did not have this a year ago. So the possibilities for us to kind of like offload a lot of our daily tasks to these bots is really a game changer because now we can have multiple agentic bots doing multiple things for us. It might automate us out of a job if we're not careful, but this capability, we have to learn it, learn to use it, to trust it, to train it, learn from it. So that's going to be a big theme throughout a lot of this event is where is this stuff going and what do we have to think about? What skills do workers need? What tools does IT need? How does the organization need to think about its overall structure and how it does things, how it creates value for customers, whole bunch of things there. And whatever we're seeing in our room talking about in the sessions, Rich, I think to a large extent is going to be reflected on the show floor. And we do have activity on the show floor too, right? We have the Solutions Theater where I'm going to reprise my keynote talk from the event on the show floor as well. And that's going to be, I think, Thursday at noon. So for folks who don't come and see our sessions in the room, you'll have a second chance to see that on the floor.
And we
Well
should mention
said. Well,
you can't send your AI agent to the show yet. So you've got to be there yourself. So
Yet.
make sure to register at Future Work
my
Expo.
AI agent doesn't need sunshine. I need some physical sunshine, and South Florida
Yeah,
is the place
exactly.
to do that. And Rich, this is really interesting topic, future of work, because it's so timely, so pressing, so many urgent and interesting issues facing us, the workforce and the leadership and tech vendors. I just read today that Dell Full mandate, back to the office, full time. If you live an hour with near an office, no exceptions. So, what does that mean? And this is happening all over the map for remote work. What does it mean for the technology vendors and us as a society? What's your big sort of takeaway from all of these announcements we're seeing? And I'll get John's view as well.
Well, we saw an exodus from a lot of cities to more suburban and rural areas during the pandemic. And I live in Connecticut, so a lot of New Yorkers just moved here, and they discovered that there's something called space in your home that you can have. And another thing many of them discovered was something called a yard. And so they like that. And the issue now is there are these mandates to go back to the office, and there are people who are going to have to figure out where they can work if they're too far away and their company doesn't allow them to work from where they are. They may need a new job, but they may have to figure out, just how to deal with things. And certainly there are going to be some workers that are displaced by these back to the office mandates. And for those people, we're going to have this hybrid world. And either it's going to be they'll come in occasionally, or they'll come in. Like people in Connecticut still can take a train. It just takes longer than if you lived in Manhattan, right, to get in. So I've seen some companies are somewhat flexible. A few days a week you can come in, and so if you live here, you can go back and forth. But if you move to the, let's say, Midwest, and your offices are on the coasts, you kind of have to figure out a way to just be 100% remote. And companies are going to have to determine what they want to do to attract the best talent, because some of the best talent is not going to be available in your geographic area. And so companies are going to have to make an exception. And maybe Dell doesn't have to, and maybe some of the others don't. But if you're a small, relatively aggressive company, and you want to be competitive and really just do better than the next organization, if you have a really motivated workforce that has flexibility in how they work, you're going to most likely get more productivity out of them. And so I think that's what we're dealing with, and that's the tools. How do we determine what tools to give them to keep them efficient, to monitor progress, to ensure there's collaboration when they're not in the office? And I think that's the exciting thing about the future, is that there are going to be kind of this, I don't know if it's a conflict, but it's the management's opinion on how things should work and the workers' opinion, and then the technology that kind of merges all of that together to find the best solution for each organization, right? So that's where we're going, and it's going to be exciting to see over the next few years. Like John said, if we're not careful, AI is going to take jobs. It's already doing that. I recently ran a poll on LinkedIn, and last I checked it, about 50-50 have laid off versus hiring due to AI.
Mm.
So it's interesting that people are also adding workers because of AI, and others are cutting because of AI. So at least on my poll from yesterday, it's a net, it's a push right now. So we'll see what happens in the future, but that's my take. Thanks, Evan.
Yeah, and John, here's a nice summary of the Future of Work Expo, some of the key takeaways. You got to love summarization tools. Care to call out any of these trends and sessions? What's on your mind?
Well, I think we've touched on a lot of this already. And there is, by the way, I should just, towards the bottom of that list, it says AI and contact center. And I have, over the past few years, I have had a couple of content sessions specifically on the impact of future of work on contact centers. So that's been a small kind of strand for the overall program. It's a little less this year, and mainly, Rich, I'm sure you've done your share shouting out for the Metrigy folks who are doing the Future of CX event. So that's brand new. That's also in
Mm.
response to how hot CX has become. So aside from what I'm doing and touching on the CX space, the Future of CX Expo is a whole dedicated track just for that space. But it's not a future of work theme per se. So there's a little overlap there. And in fact, some of my speakers are going to be also speaking on their panels as well. So that's a kind of a bonus for a lot of people who want to see some of these vendors speak. So I think that's an important one to point out, Evan. And also, when you talked earlier about pendulum shift, I think that's really an important part of this because, as you say, Rich, we'll see with future of work because a lot of it is yet to be written, and we don't know if these extremes are going to hold of all in office or all from home. And there's going to be a happy medium at some point, but we have not found it yet. So we keep trying new things. This agentic AI thing with more automation could influence some of that. It's too early to tell. But I should also mention, folks, we only do this event once a year in February as part of IT Expo, of course. But if this topic is of interest to you, there's two ongoing resources you should know about. First, Rich, in your stable is Future of Work News that Greg Tavares puts together. And he provides great coverage of this space. And I'm hoping he'll write up a few of our sessions as well, because if you're not there, you're not going to see it. And also, if you don't know, folks, I've been running my own podcast called Watch This Space with my partner, Chris Fine. We've been running that podcast for 8 years now, and future of work is kind of one of the core themes we talk about. So we talk about this event a lot on the podcast, and in fact, TMC is a media sponsor. So if you want again get more ongoing coverage, check out Future Work News. You can sign up for it. My podcast is www.watchthispace.tech, and you can sign up on any of the platforms to get it as a podcast. So there's more where this comes from, folks. Don't leave it till just once a year. This is an ongoing space with great research, and I'm going to share some very cool data from some of the leading research sources in this industry.
So well said. Thanks for that, John. And Rich, you run a company, a business, a media company, and I've noticed changes from the outside looking in over the last couple of years. Clearly, you're much more prolific with AI. I've seen so much more interesting video content and other content and polls and stuff coming out of your organization. But how have some of these trends affected you? And how do you see your organization evolving over time with AI and other technologies?
Well, it's a productivity booster, right? So AI
Mm.
is the ultimate productivity booster, I guess, is a good way of saying it. I mean, I like to look at prior examples of technology when we try to figure out how things are going to change, right? So the classic example is the horse and buggy, right? The blacksmith who made the horseshoes was put out of work, right? A lot of them around the world, but we have a thriving economy as a result of having automobiles and trucks and all the other innovations that came from the innovation of just mass produced automobiles. So that's one way of looking at things, is that existing jobs, some of them are going to go, but then new economies are going to be built. And then you look at something more recent is Microsoft Office. If you look at the typewriters we used to use and the productivity limitation and the spreadsheets we used to use with pencil and paper and the inability to share, Microsoft Word is and Excel, the Office in general, has put probably millions of people out of work. But on the flip side, it's allowed so many more companies to be created more inexpensively, and that's allowed the hiring of more people. Excel has put a lot of accountants out of work, but really the need for accountants has only grown. There are more accountants. There's actually a shortage of accountants. So uh, to date, technology has made us more productive. We've lost jobs, but we've gained industries and GDP growth. So that's kind of the push pull. And then in terms of our organization and others, we're experimenting with AI all the time. How can we make things better? How can we produce things more quickly, concisely? How can we get a second opinion? Another poll I ran recently was, would you trust AI to give you a second opinion, second medical opinion? And a high percentage said yes there. So, I mean, we're trusting AI more and more. Like John said, you have to trust the tools. And now we've got the agents. I have all sorts of ideas with the agents on what I want to do. And I haven't had time to implement them all, but I want to do that. And then you've also got Operator, which is ChatGPT's ability to control the web. You have to pay $200 for that option, but it can, if you tell it, I want the lowest cost apartment on Airbnb and some of the competitors, and I want it in Vancouver, and I want it during this week. I want you to book it for me. It'll go through the sites. It can do things like that, right? So that there's so much. It's like a fire hose of information. China's got new stuff coming out all the time. It's a fire hose. And really, why do you go to a show like IT Expo and sit in the conference sessions of Future of Work? It's because, to be honest, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming for me. I'm doing this all day, and I've tried to stay on top of tech since the 80s. And at this point, it is the most amount of innovation on a daily basis. And let me just give you an example. What should be huge news this week is that Apple now allows satellite connectivity with their phones. That's a huge story, right? So the iPhone is a dominant device here in the US, and now we have satellite connectivity to all the phones. It was literally a blip of a blip of a blip of news that we probably already forgot about because it was a few days ago. That's how fast things have moved. And it's not just that there's stuff that's happening, it's that if you can figure out which of these things to deploy at the right time while simultaneously keeping an eye on the future, you can outcompete, out innovate, reduce cost, increase profits, and you have to, because business is moving faster than ever. The environment is moving faster than ever. Sunday we had tariffs, and then we didn't have tariffs from a country like it's you've never seen anything like this. Geopolitically, we've got wars. You wake up one day, the war's gone. There's peace. Then there's a conflict in Taiwan. It is fast moving. Technology is crucial. You've got to automate as much as you can. Intelligent automation, where you're keeping an eye on it. Human supervision in many cases, but you've got to be focused on that because the world is it's just evolving rapidly. Innovation is evolving, and the pace of innovation. It's not just that innovation is happening, but there's a pace of innovation that is at record levels, and we expect that innovation to just get faster and faster. And you want to stay relevant. And then forget about your company for a second. Put that aside, assuming you're not a business owner and you're just working at a company. You have got to stay current on what is going on just for your own career, because you're either going to embrace this stuff, and by this stuff, I mean all the latest technologies that you'll see at a show like the IT Expo Tech Super Show. If you don't embrace it, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be a triceratops, as one of my coworkers always said. You'll come to work and there won't be a work for you. It won't even be where you thought it was. Like you don't fit. And I know it sounds hyperbolic, and maybe it was 25 years ago. Not today. You better know what's going on. You better figure out how these no coding tools work, low code tools. You better figure out how to optimize everything that you do, because if you don't, your company might find someone who can, because they have to. They have to. You have to compete. And to stay in business, you have to be better, at least as good as the competition, or priced a lot lower. And ultimately, that may or may not be a strategy for success. So you've really got to try to compete to stay in the game and hopefully win, take market share, and do it without taking excessive risk. And because AI is relatively inexpensive, a lot of these tools are free, guys. You can run them on a phone. You can run them on. I've been seeing more and more people are running AI models on Raspberry Pi. I mean, you can run them on a PC, on a MacBook. I mean, we're getting to a point where it's very inexpensive to experiment, and it's just a matter of having time. How do you have time? So look at this event as the one time a year where you get a condensed, really narrowly focused view of everything you need to know without drowning from the fire hose being shot in your face. I think that's the best way of explaining it. You network, you sit in the sessions, you go to the exhibit hall, you ask questions, you talk to experts, then you make the connections. So after the show, you can talk to the vendors, you can talk to your colleagues, someone who just deployed something that you want to deploy. You talk to them in a few months and say, oh, how's it going? You just can't do that on the web. I love the web. I love the internet, right? We're all talking on the internet, but what I just described, you can't you can't effectively do sitting at home. Yeah, you can look at videos and YouTube and all that, but it's not the same. You can't get the colleague interaction. You can't talk to people who deployed 2 months ago, honestly, talking, looking them in the eyes, not like a review. Like if you go on some of these sites where the reviews are fake, like people game everything online. You can't game looking into the eyes of your colleague, right? They have no axe to grind. They're not getting paid. They'll be honest and tell you what their feeling is about a product that you want to deploy, and you don't want to take that risk. You want to be ahead of the curve, and you want to deploy products that have worked and find out what the problems are beforehand. And so that's the beauty of face to face, and that's why I love going to live events like the IT Expo Tech Super Show, February 11th through 13th, and we hope to see you all there in Fort Lauderdale.
Wow, so well said. And there's so much happening at IT Expo. Any tips or tricks for navigating the agenda, the different workshops, the different sessions? Because there's a lot going on. What if you're new as an exhibitor, maybe new as an attendee? Um, there's an app now, which I just downloaded on my phone. But what's your best advice there for folks who might be new?
Uh, because there's so many different things that you can do at the show, we're seeing a record number of diamond plans being purchased. And the diamond plan is where you bring more than one person from your company to the event. And we make it inexpensive for you to do that because we want your buying team there. And the reason why that's important is because you may be making decisions on your communication solutions, but your colleague is in charge of AI and another colleague is in charge of cybersecurity. What do? You bring all three of you come or more to the event. So you want to look ahead of time at all the different options. You want to think about registering for a conference pass. You want to look at the conference sessions ahead of time. Then you want to go to the app, like you said. Just get familiar with it. I look at these events as every second is crucial. And guys, it's going to sound very nerdy, but I think it was 1998 or 1997. I was at a show, competitive show at the time. It's called the Computer Telephony Show, and I set a timer on my watch to chime every hour to remind myself that this is probably the most important 3 days that I'm going to have in many months. And I still have I have the chime. I have an Apple Watch. I have a chime, and I try to do that to remind myself that God, just stay on top of things. Time is ticking, and time is a precious resource. And so, if you plan ahead, you maximize your time at the event. And then, what I'm seeing a lot of is people on LinkedIn saying, "I'll be at IT Expo if you want to meet, if you want to talk, let's communicate." Go on Twitter, go on LinkedIn, wherever else you're social. You have your colleagues. Tell them, and then you'll probably find someone that can help you or you lost touch with that it will be good to get back in touch with, because really there's going to be 7 to 8 thousand attendees at this event. It's a good amount of people, and these are really the innovators that are global innovators. So it's an opportunity to meet with them. So aside from planning ahead, the app, looking at the agenda, studying it, who's speaking, looking at the speakers, looking at all the stuff that's happening in the exhibit hall, make sure you try to network as much as you can with others via the social
And you
media.
can meet John Arnold. I mean, how often do you have the chance to meet the legend that is John Arnold? And you can even get some free advice from him if you're a technologist or a CIO. I mean, I love free stuff. So,
Free,
yeah, I
free,
can't wait
free.
for that. And also, I must say, as a guy who spends all his time on social media and online, um, and of course, I like to think, oh, I could just do everything here, sitting in my sunroom. But there is so much opportunity for content creation and capturing content and live streaming and doing interviews and taking pictures and live blogging different sessions. I mean, you can get a year's worth of content if you're a vendor or an analyst out of IT Expo doing interviews. It really is a unique destination, and nothing beats that, face to face, video interview or that capturing content in person. So for all you marketeers out there, it really is a unique opportunity to kind of see everyone in the ecosystem in one place, the whole value chain, up, down, left, right.
That's a really good point, Evan. That you can come to a show like this, and if you've got customers there that that you can meet with that are happy with your product, getting live video testimonials or live video case studies is it's really a great idea. I've seen people do it in the past, but it's a good point that we do have this engaged community. Every year we have thousands of new people, plus people who love the show have been coming for years. So you've got a mix, but sometimes you've got past customers that you may run into that you can upsell, cross sell, but also see if you can get a video testimonial if they're happy, obviously, and then also sell to new people. But that's a really, really good point. And that's just not at this event, but it's at every event. If you can set up those meetings ahead of time with past customers, it makes it easier to if they'll go on camera.
Yeah, that applies to investors. There's a whole startup session, and looking for
it's a pitch event.
places to pitch, to invest, to meet other investors. I mean,
Idea
there's so much. So
idea pitch event. It's called. So it's one of the nights at the show. So yeah, check out the agenda for that. It's kind of like a Shark Tank, except we're in South Florida, so there's no tank.
and there's sharks, but hopefully not at the show. So yeah, any final thoughts, John, before we bid adieu and get ready for the weekend?
Well, we're all Northerners, and all I can say is, February, Florida. What else do you need to know?
Yeah, that's pretty much all you need, especially if you're from Canada, the 51st state. But I kid, John. Yeah, we New Englanders look forward to it, especially, and it's getting hot. I saw 80 degrees something this week. That's wild, even for Florida temperatures. So I'm counting the days. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. See you
Take
soon.
care,
All right.
everyone.
Thanks
All
for
right.
running this. Thanks all
Take
for
care.
watching, and we'll see